Okay, the first category is macro.
Yeah, as we begin, I'd just like to say, Henry and I will be commenting. Jacques Shellshop very kindly helped us judge, but unfortunately, because of his internet, he won't be able to comment. But I assure you, once internet is sorted out on the coast here and we all have fibre, we will be asking Jacques to assist with comments. But in the meantime, you'll have to put up with Henry and me. But Jacques, thank you for your contribution for helping us judge.
A 1-star, fly on log, silver.
Do you want me to kick off, Henry? Or
yes, ladies first.
Okay, well, well done. You understand what we are looking for in macro. You have got those eyes punctual. You've got so much detail in the head and the image, and you've got this terrific lead-in with this grain in the woods towards the fly. The only thing that was against this image is that it's at such an awkward angle. If you had just tilted this image to the left, it would have been straight on. Your leading lines would have gone straight to it, and it would have been easy on the eye. Right now, you almost like want to tilt your head to see the image. So whoever the author is here, this is a super image. Just tilt it to the left and maybe try a different crop. The square crop sometimes is a little bit difficult. Try a slightly rectangular or what we call a landscape crop. And this will be a really, really strong image.
1-star, space in between, silver.
Well, I must compliment the author in doing something different and playing with shapes and colors, and that's the first step. It's what I like about this. It's clean and sharp. There's some elements of composition. If you look at the silver lines leading down to the center of the bottom of the image, and then the beautiful contrasting colors. Why not a high mark? I think that you possibly could have done a little bit more with the lighting. And if you just look at the very bright lines and all that, if you'd gone to levels, maybe pulled back on that, or even in whichever program you use, just pull back in the highlights. That would subdue those sort of very bright areas and then bring to fore the actual marble with the beautiful shape and colors in it. And then I would also suggest that you maybe consider just the light traps at the bottom left and the bottom right. It's an open category, so you can actually get those toned down beautifully, and it doesn't compete with the image, but very good effort. Well done.
Paul Ellis, 1-star, Candy, Gold Award.
Yes, I love this image. What I love about it, well, there's two things. I love the simplicity. The fact is that you've got this, although it's just little bits of pink candy, as you can see, because of the lighting and all the other things involved, you've got different shades of pink. And some of them are grainy and some of them aren't grainy. So your eye goes to that center one, which is almost facing you, plus it's got the grain in the center one. So the composition works very well. The second thing I really like about it is this bit of reflection that you have on the bottom. So that really adds value to your image. It grounds it. It sort of gives you a bit of perspective. It's a really nice image, Paul. Well done.
1-star, made of wood, silver.
Well, what I liked about this image is that, first of all, it gives you a almost three-dimensional effect, and that is a compliment to the author and that the way you set it up. So composition-wise, you have lots of shapes and triangles and angles, and that's commendable. I think it possibly, it's a little bit static in that there's nothing that holds your eye. You keep on looking at different sections of the blocks and all that. But the composition of that is what I enjoyed, the different angles. Now, possibly the very dark shadow underneath the blocks and all that is what sort of draws one's attention away. try maybe just playing around with it. If you use Lightroom, you can always try and either lighten it up so it's not so dark and forbidding, but maybe crop out a little bit of that. But as far as being clean, sharp, and thought out, I think it's well done. Thank you.
The next category is monochrome. Master bronze, on a mission, silver.
Yes, what I really love about this image is the action, that tail leading in, the length of the tail. The tail itself is mimicking the shape of this, I think it's a vervet monkey, and the hands outstretched is great. You've got space in front. So why not a high mark? I think basically it lacks a bit of sharpness. It's just, I just would have preferred it to be just that little bit sharper, or maybe you could have toned down the background a little bit, because the background, because it's in mono, the colors are the same as your subject, so it's competing with your subject. So you either must have a much sharper subject, or you must tone down your background.
Henry Opel, Master silver, Hornbill study, gold award.
Yes, this is a very interesting image, because in general we tend to present our hornbill images in color because of that beautiful bill and the eye, which is often so striking. So this was a brave attempt, and I really like it. It really works, because now you are looking at the different textures of the branch, which is not competing because it's darker than your bird, but the different textures and the feathers, and that makes it really, really interesting. It does look slightly overexposed. Underexposed, I beg your pardon. So I would possibly try and, with a bit of levels, just try and lighten it just a little bit, and just see. I actually cheated a bit, and I did it myself, just to test this one when I looked at it, and it really pops if you just lighten it slightly.
Thank you.
Michelle Pearson, 5-star, thick knee portrait, gold award.
Well, compliments to Michelle, as usual, pin sharp, nothing to fault it. I think this would have done equally well in color, because it's so good and so prominent with that eye. So nice and clean, and nothing else to say about it other than it's a great image. Well done.
Super.
Yeah. Texture, everything just works beautiful.
5-star, story time, silver.
Yes, this image really does tell a lovely story. Although its back is to you, that little fluffy white tail, the texture of the fur, the head slightly turned, the detail in the ears. There's a beautiful, beautiful story going on here, and I just love that part. The only reason why I imagine this was didn't get a high mark, because it does appear to be a little bit flat. And especially with mono, one does like to have a whole spectrum of the grays, from the whites to the lightest to the darkest. It just adds more impact. It's visually, it's just more acceptable visually. So a bit of contrast maybe, or otherwise up your whites and pull back on your darks, and I think you will have a stunning image.
2-star, playtime, silver.
Well, what I like about this image is that I think that the conversion to monochrome is actually very, very well done. If you look at the whites on the animals, there's nothing blown out. There's detail in it and all that. And then you have this background that is slightly more diffused enough not to compete. So there's great separation between the subject and the background. However, the crop is really the issue here for me. One, it's very tight in the top. It doesn't leave much room. And then below there, where the hooves of the animal and its hind quarters, that's almost, although you don't see it being amputated, is below the line, just knowing how these animals behave and look and all that. So if you have the image that allows you a little bit more space below and above, I think it certainly would go a great way to lift it to a higher score.
Barn Barons, Master Bronze, Water Patterns, Gold Award.
Yes, Fawn, you're certainly becoming a master of scapes. What I love about your scapes is that you have a simplicity and a softness. You have an eye for looking for that. Your scapes tend not to be too busy. And I love that. I love the softness of the water that's moving through between those roughly textured rocks. And then, of course, it makes this lovely S-curve as it goes towards the horizon and the clouds. So lovely. I like it. I would also like to see this one in color. I think you could also produce a great image with color. But well done, Tom.
Next category is Nature. Andries Porman, Master Bronze, Goldfish, Gold Award.
Well captured, Uri. I think this is a color on the bird and on the fish and all that just helps with the whole impact of this image. So what I particularly like is that obviously the background doesn't compete with either the subject and its prey or the prey and its capture. And that is commendable. The separation between the two. So quite often you would get the fish half swallowed and that hides it. In this case, you have both the subjects that adds to the overall feel, beautiful composition and all that. I do think it maybe, I noticed a little bit of bleeding around the bill of the bird, both inside and outside. And I would suggest you maybe just look at that. Maybe you did try and darken the background or lighten the bird and bring out more detail and it bled over. So if you work on that a little bit, I think that this image can do very well.
Master Bronze, Landing, Silver.
Yes, I like the action. I like the fact that obviously this was taken in low light. As you can see, the light is coming underneath the bird and sort of like almost tending to light up the wings. So I really like that. But regret, and it's just lovely action, but regrettably the background is really quite busy with all those white spots and that, so it's competing with the bird. And then the bird is a little bit soft. I would sharpen this image a bit more. I'll tone down the background and sharpen the bird a bit more, and then it will be a super duper image.
Two-star, Gymnogene, Silver.
Well, first of all, this is a very rare sighting, certainly for me. I think in all my years, I've maybe seen these birds 3 or 4 times. So compliments in being able to capture this and getting it. So one on high mark, I think, well, obviously, when shooting up against the sky, you always have a problem that the camera will start looking to see which way it's going to adjust and compensate for the exposure. So if the author did adjust his EV up here, he planned it and it's worked out well because you can see the colors in the wings of the bird. However, I feel that it's a bit soft around the head and I'm a little bit concerned about it's very soft around the neck area. So it's one or two things. Either it's just shown up as being slightly out of focus, or it could also be a processing error. I'm not sure. But to me, that is the letdown in there.
Henry Sporman, Master Bronze, take Gold Award.
Oh, what a pleasure to judge an image like this. Bori, this is such a beautiful image. It's spin sharp, there's action. I love the angle. I love the fact that you've left a little bit of space in the front. Not so easy to capture something like this, so well done. Nice image.
Next category is Nature Wildlife. Tim Gould, Master Bronze, Enjoying the Sun, Gold Award.
Well, then, this image really ticks all the boxes. It's a beautiful exposure on it. The composition is right. You have the leading from the left, leading into the top right. You have a diffused background. It's nice and clean. And maybe try a little bit something. So I don't think that the lighting condition was ideal. And whatever it was at the time, I think you handled it beautifully. But maybe just try and boost a little bit with a little bit of more clarity, maybe in Lightroom, or maybe just a little bit more contrast. But as it is, well done.
Sandy Reinders, 1 star, A Bit of Preening, Gold Award.
Yes, it's always nice to see these images of these raptors when they're not just standing and posing something, but they're actually doing something. And in this case, it's preening. I like the fact that you've got the head nice and sharp, and you've got plenty of detail in the feathers and the wings. Your exposure is also very good, and that's what we look for in the 1 star. We don't expect much more. So you've nailed it there, Sandy. Well done. But as you progress up the rungs, we've got our eye on you because you're showing such promise. So look now, try not to have quite as much of the branches in because they're competing a little bit with the subject. And if you've got others, possibly where his head is a little bit isolated or not quite so lost in amongst the feathers and the branches, you can try that for your next shot, your next entry, because lovely. I love the time of day, your exposure was spot on. You've really got it. You're getting it right, Sandy. Well done.
Henry Oppel, Master Silver, Peace Offering, Merit Award.
This is such a beautiful, stunning, lovely image. As you can see, the one bee eater static and the other one coming with the food in its mouth. But because the one's flying and the one's standing, you see totally different colors. And that really, really makes this image so interesting. You've got the browns and blue on the right-hand side and the greens and yellows on the left. Lovely diffused background. Super image, Henry. Well done.
Malcolm Sutton, 5 star, Squabbling Hornbills, Merit Award.
Well done, Malcolm. You've nailed this one. So when you see these birds, they're very seldom in pairs, and if you do get them in pairs, then they're in the bush and all that. So you've captured the decisive moment here. There's great action there. The important parts of the birds are sharp and clear. And exposure, composition, everything works in this image, but the story and the action is the real clincher for me in this image. Well done.
Kathy K, Master Gold, Good Catch, Merit Award.
Well, I made a comment earlier on about getting the prey and the bird. You want some separation, and in this case it's there. So you have the beautiful exposure on the bird and the little stalk, and then you have a surprise look, almost like a fish saying, "Oh no, please, not me." So that's the story in this one. So as far as cropping is concerned, I don't think you could have done any better with that type than what you've done with the scrophia. So it's just zoomed in on the action and the important parts, and that's if you want to call it, interaction between the bird and its prey. Well done.
Thank you.
Rona Shop, Master Bronze, On the Alert, Gold Award.
Yes, lovely, Rona. The story behind this image is what is so compelling, and something that if we are lucky enough to be in the bush and see a pride of lions, if you see that kind of attitude and that action, there's no way you're going to leave them, because something is going to happen, and you've captured it, you've got it. But I think what really made this image really stand out is that you've got all 5 of these lines shot. So you got your F stop is spot on. Not sure, maybe 8 or 9 or something like that to get them all sharp. But well done, because a lot of us, with me in particular, we will tend to stop down because we want to blur the background, and then you don't get that fabulous sharpness throughout with the subjects. So well done.
5-star, Catching the Sun, Silver.
Well, lovely story when you see these, just call them fancy rats, but squirrels on the tree. And so if you look at I like the diagonal line, I like the tail coming in. So it all adds to the composition. However, I think the bark on the actual log that they're lying in actually competes with them. And I think that you would be able to tone that down in Lightroom, just pull back on the highlights a bit, just to subdue it a bit. And then by doing that, you would actually bring out the 2 animals. But more of a pity is that the tail of the squirrel on the top is actually hidden by either, I don't know, it's like a smudge there. And I'm not quite sure how that got there, but that to me is a problem. But nice story.
LCB Du Toit, 5-star, Morning Walk, Gold Award.
Lovely, LCB. This is such a stunning image. I love the fact it's obviously moving quite fast, so you've got your shutter speed really nice and high. Spin sharp throughout, especially the eye. That's where you're obviously focused. So well done. Your exposure is really, really good. You've placed it well in the environment, so we can see where it is running along close to water. That's where you tend to see them. So lovely, well done.
Tony K, 4-star, Having a Drink, Gold Award.
Well done, Tony. This image, I just love the soft feel of this bird. So it's early morning, I assume, and the background actually just complements. But even more important is that the actual exposure on the bird itself. You see details in the blacks, and the beautiful grays, and then the droplet from its beak and all that just brings it to life. Otherwise, it could have been quite static. Very well done and well handled.
Shark Cell Shop, Master Silver, Fine Catch, 15 out of 15 Merit Award.
Shark.
Wow, not often that you get 15 out of 15, but I mean, the image speaks for itself. Just look at that image. That is wonderful. It's, I think, worthy of a possible medal in the salon circuit. So, Jean, I hope you're going to be entering this image in a salon. It is fabulous. What I really love, besides the action, besides the fish and the detail and the feathers, it's sharp throughout the bird, but those feet that are curled up with the water dropping from them, it just adds such value to this image and leads the eye back to the bird again, and then you go to the head and beak and fish, and you come down, and your eyes just don't leave this image because they're just going round and round. So your composition is near, I'd say, perfect. Well done.
5-star, wild, silver.
Well, I love the story or the action with these horses, and I assume it's in Namibia, and so that's why the background is so sort of stark and bleak and all that. I would have liked to have seen a little bit more of the horse behind, because this one now is slightly hidden from scene, and it sort of detracts from the overall story. So action is there, and exposure is great. The time of day you can see by the shadow is also right, but the also handle the lighting conditions beautifully. So to me, a little bit of differentiation between the two horses, and then I think at the one in front means maybe a little bit of sharpening around the head and all that. But other than that, just a lovely feel to this, especially if you've been there, you'd appreciate it even more.
John Finter, Master Bronze, Starry Night, Gold Award.
Wow. This is really so lovely. Well done. This is a subject that we so rarely see, and it's exciting to see it, but the judges don't judge on the rarity of a subject. We judge on the photograph itself. And this is really well done because it's nighttime, and it must have been such a struggle. You must have very high ISO, low shutter speed, and you got your white balance dead right. Your exposure is so good. Your subject is pin sharp. It is really, really well composed. It's a great image. Well done.
Thanks.
Master Bronze, Jacobin Kaku, silver.
Yeah. So I must compliment the author that the actual focus on the bird is spot on the head in particular, and the eye. Where it makes it a little bit difficult is that the bird is half in shadow, in certain parts in the direct sunlight. But even so, I think that the author handled this very well. If you look at the overall exposure on the bird, it's beautiful. The background is totally diffused, and some judges might not like the surrounds and all that. To me, that's actually where you find these birds. You don't find them out in the open, properly isolated from everything else. So to me, the story and the actual presentation is very important. So I quite enjoyed this image. I would also suggest that you maybe consider, just if you look at things in way to improve this image, if you just look at the bottom right-hand corner, there's that dark leaf. I would crop that out. Try and eliminate things that might compete with the overall message or story that you're trying to present. But I think it was a worthy exercise, this one, and well taken.
Sandy Rangers, 1-star, Flashy Fishing, Gold Award.
Yes, lovely. The action that we were talking about. And yeah, this yellow bull is obviously fishing and wings out, and it's telling the story, because what they do is they lift their wings and it places a shade over the possible prey, and as they flush out the small fish in that, they can see it with a shadow over the water. So it's a lovely story. Yeah, your exposure is good. It's very difficult because I can see the time of day was sun was quite high, but yet you've still managed to get so much detail in the whites and the top. So it could have been a bummer, but it didn't, because your exposure is really good. So well done, Sandy.
Malcolm Sutton, 5-star, Early Morning, Tawny Eagle, Gold Award.
Yeah, once again, Malcolm, you just nailed this one. So in flight the bird focused on something, so it's on the hunt, totally diffused background, and that separation between the subject and the background is so important in this type of image, and you've captured it beautifully. So I think it, to improve it, I can't see any way to improve it. Maybe some of the judges felt that there was a little bit of softness in the wings or in the chest. But to me, it's the eyes, the focus, and the intent that this bird exudes here. And that's where I scored it. Well done.
Rona Southop, Master Bronze at Leisure, Gold Award.
Yes, well, something we all just so badly want to see. And he was so beautifully exposed here on his little mound. So well done. This is such a beautiful image. I love the fact that you've got the eye pin sharp detail, the head, everything there is what you want, and your background nicely diffused. I think the only reason it didn't get a merit is because the white on the tail does compete a bit, and the eye does leave the head and go to that tail. So perhaps if it was me in Lightroom, I would pull a gradient filter up from the bottom just to about the first fifth or quarter. It'll darken the bottom a bit and possibly darken that tail, and therefore the eye will go directly to the head, and there's a merit waiting to be had. Well done.
Sorry, can I just make a comment? And I agree with everything that Kathy said, including the tail. But I'm really saying this because I think that this image, as Kathy said, is a merit and is a winner in salons, whichever way you go. I just ask you to have a look at the section just by the neckline, and there's almost like a half moon circle that runs into the greenery. I cannot explain it, but sharp-eyed judges will pick that up. Go down, push down there a little bit more, and then move into the actual tree line. So
okay, yeah. Oh,
I see that line there. So
yes.
I'm not quite sure what that is, but that if you could get rid of this, then I'm with Kathy 100%. This is an absolute merit and a top scorer wherever you present it.
Yes, I also see that line. Yes.
Henry Opple, Master Silver, Claiming Land Rights, Gold Award.
Oh, the action and the story is just absolutely amazing. I just love the fact that you've got those different tones of the water, which actually doesn't compete. Really enhances the colors of the hippos and your birds. So it's a super image, not an easy image because you've got the white bird and then you've got the dark bird, so it's so difficult to get your exposure right. If Henry, I would take just that top bit of the landscape out where your trees are starting. I would just cut down a little bit because I found that a little bit distracting. The bush on the top left-hand corner and in the middle sort of like is almost the same shape as your heron. Just crop it out and then your eye will just remain there on the subject. Sorry.
No, that's why you present images. Listen and learn.
5-star, Brown Hooded Kingfisher, Silver.
Yeah. I might be controversial in what I'm saying. So I like this image for a couple of reasons. One, obviously, the exposure on the bird is spot on. There's nothing that's blown out. There's nothing that's out of line. It is what these hooded the fishers look like. And then I would imagine that everybody else would be very concerned about the tree behind the bird. But in a way, it's almost like sort of holding the bird together in that you have on both sides, you have the blues of the sky and all that. And the fused log in the background. So not ideal, but the best you could have done in this situation. So I quite enjoyed the image. The crop is perfect for this type of scenario. And I think anything else would have actually messed up the image if you cropped out more in the back or in front. The fact that that runs through the center line just helps anchor the bird. I enjoyed it. Well done.
Also, we do toy, 5-star. Looking for breakfast, Gold Award.
Yes, once again, a difficult subject because you've got this white, pristine white bird, and then you've got the dark rocks. So it plays havoc with your camera sensor. So it's really difficult to get your exposure right. And elsewhere you've done it. You have got not one little iota blown out markings on the bird, on your subject. So well done. Plenty of detail and nicely placed. Your bird is nicely placed as well. So the background is slightly sharp, and there's not much you can do about it because that it is what it is. And at the sea, when they go and fish in the rocks in the sea, the rocks are right there. So it actually places you subject, which is fabulous. There's no doubt in anybody's mind this is down on the beach, in the rocks, fishing for whatever. Well done.
Kathy K, Master Gold. Craig in Mad Dash, Merit Award.
Yeah, well, we've been talking about action, exposure, detail, and this really ticks all the boxes. The blacks are so well handled. I mean, you can see actually detail right from the tail right up to the eyeball, and that's what's important. But more importantly is that you've got this bird in motion and it is still sharp. I'm not too concerned about the little foreground and all that because you're getting at a very low angle, but the separation is absolutely fabulous. Kicking up stone and all that. It's a real beautiful wildlife action shot. Well done.
Tony K, 4-star. Quenching My Thirst, Merit Award.
Well done. Must I comment or would you like to, Henry?
Yeah, no, I'll comment. Well done, Tony. Really captured the moment there. Leopard drinking water, drops coming off its tongue and all that. And that's really what holds one's attention, is that you have a leading on the water hole or where this animal sitting, and then you have this red tongue, crimson tongue that holds your attention, and then you look at the eyes and back to the tongue. That is what makes this image so strong. Again, clear background, nothing to interfere or to compete with the center of interest, which is this leopard. Beautifully added. Well done.
Fanny Reinders, 1-star. Waiting for a Turn, Gold Award.
Lovely. Well, judging by the title, obviously this is a vulture near kill, and this is what you tend to have. They get pretty restless every now and again. So, Sandy, you've captured the action beautifully. What really, really makes this image so strong is the fact that you've got such lovely detail throughout, good sharpness throughout. The images are just a tad dark, which is unusual. I would just try and give it a little bit of light. It's a little bit flat. If you try levels, it will make a huge difference, or curves. That's something simple to do. If you use Lightroom, of course, you can do lots in Lightroom as well. You can use some whatever. But quite honestly, you only need to use some levels or curves to actually just give this image far more impact, and then you could possibly consider entering in a salon.
Master Bronze, Curious, Silver.
Yeah, well, what I found very interesting is the pose, if you want to call it that. This animal is busy walking, and you've got all four legs at different positions and all that. And that's quite interesting. I'm a little bit concerned about the crop above. I think if you had more room, I would allow it a little bit more above there. It's very, so you're almost putting the head almost in the center position at the top. And I would have preferred a little bit more room in front and in the top if you could. But I think if you could just sharpen up in the head and bring that detail out, then that would pop away from the very bleak background. So maybe give that a try and just play around with some levels or it, or even and also try and sharpen the head if you can.
Next category is pictorial. 3-star, clear winter day, silver.
How lovely to have been there and taken this photograph. And you can see that the author has given this a lot of thought. And first of all, the exposure is spot on. These snow images, they can be very grey if you don't know what to do. And it's beautiful. You haven't blown out the white, but it's alive. And then the contrast with the blue sky behind really, really makes this image pop. Plus, you've got this fabulous leading line coming from the corner, leading towards those two huts. So it's ticking so many boxes. So why not a higher mark? I mean, even a merit for something that's so simplistic but so stunning. And I think what really, really let you down with this is your crop. The square format, it doesn't add value. If you'd cropped it in the landscape, so you'd had less of this long pipe of rocks going towards it and have some of it, but not so much, and have it slightly wider on either side, it would be a magnificent image. So whoever the author is, go back to this image, go and redo this image because there's a winning image right here.
Michelle Pearson, 5-star, furious, 15 out of 15, merit award.
Well, as Kathy said early on, you don't often get 15 out of 15. So that means each and every judge gave this a perfect score. Well done, Michelle. If you just take the viewers through this, again, I must say this, if a perfect portrait for this animal and the poses that you were presented with. Absolute detail in almost everything, the whiskers, the fangs, the tongue, the eyes, the ears, and all that. And then this beautiful background that just complements this image in total. Absolutely fabulous image. Well done, well deserved.
Master bronze, flower in felt, silver.
Yes, what I love about this image is the fact that you've got these beautiful contrasting colors. You've got the orange of the flower and the butterfly, and then you've got the green of the stems and the leaves. And that's basically the only colors that you have because your background is virtually the same. So that is really lovely and super. But unfortunately, it's a bit lost because the eye moves from the flower and then to the butterfly and then to the flower. So you either have to come in closer so that you've just got that, or you have to try another angle, or maybe just before the butterfly left or something. But here you've got the butterfly that's actually competing with the flower because the two are kind of like lost in this big background. So I would definitely try a smaller crop. Can crop out some of the bottom. You would then move this piece of grass that's on the bottom on your bottom line. It's a bit distracting. So if you crop that out, just crop it out. And just crop off some of the right. It can suddenly be a much stronger image because then you would place this flower and the stem on the third and the butterfly on the top third.
Marine Barons, 5-star, 3 pink lilies, gold award.
Oh, well done, Karine. Just love your floral photography. You play with soft lighting which makes it so appealing. You have threes, the composition is beautiful and spot on. The focus on this is great, and it is clean and well presented. Beautiful. Well done.
Shark Cell Shop, Master Silver, Birds in Combo, Gold Award.
Yes, oh, this is lovely. It's unusual, this image. The stem of the branch coming out, taking you up to this bird. It's the back of the bird, but oh my goodness, there's detail, there's texture, and then you've got this lovely curve of the neck leading to the beak as it's preening, and then you've got the added interest of the birds in the background. So there's lots to keep you. They don't detract, they actually add value to the image. So it's an interesting image. Well done.
And Borman, 5-star, Common Lawn Daisy, Gold Award.
Well, Anne, well done. I think compositionally you've nailed this. A lot of photographers would, or a lot of times, we see these images and the flower is smack bang in the center. In this case, you've actually brought the stem in front on the third, and that adds to the composition. I think maybe you try to, and I'm assuming this, that you try to get soft lighting and all that, but I think what you could have done is actually upped it by a half a stop or a stop. And just by doing that, you would actually bring out a lot more detail in the flower petals and all that and make it a stronger image. So if you can, that's what I'd suggest, is you just see if you can just lift it a bit, make just a little exposure a little bit, and you might be surprised at seeing a completely different image. Well done.
5-star, Roy Slot, Silver.
Yes, I love it when our members go and look for the simple and the different. And here you go. Yes, something in your, possibly in your own home. We're all in lockdown, so it tells quite a story. It made me immediately think, oh, he's feeling or she is feeling this lockdown, and this is symbolic. So well done. I love it, and I love the fact that the lock is just red against the silver background. Unfortunately, you've got a lot of blown out lights on the metal of the lock and in the background. I know it's not easy, but still you can. I mean, you're in complete control of this situation because it's not a moving subject or something alive. So you could play around, try and maybe use a screen or a filter or something to tone down those lights. You could put it on a tripod, and there's so much you could have done, but really, really love the idea that you've got to try and tone down these brights because they're competing with the main subject, which is that look.
Joan Darcy, 3-star, Frosty Morning, Gold Award.
Well, nice capture, John. It was one of my favorite parts of South Africa, up in the Berg, and especially with the snowy mountains in the background. So if you look at this, you actually, what you'd like to see in landscape or any scape is that you always want a foreground, a middle ground, and a background. And I think in this case, you've got all of that. You've got the 7 canoes in the foreground, nice contrast in color. You have the blue water, the little island in the center with the tree lines, and then you obviously have the snowy mountains in the background. I like the landscape or this format. It looks like a 9:16. And then my favorite sort of aspect ratios, because it lends itself or certainly enhances scapes, in my opinion. it's just a pity about the sign in the foreground there. And I'm not quite sure of your skills with Photoshop, anything, but if you could remove it and enter it into an open, I think it would do equally well, or it certainly do better than what you've managed to get here, a higher award. I think it could do very well if you do that.
Michelle Pearson, 5-star, My Territory, 15 out of 15, merit.
Michelle, you've done it again. It is just such an amazing image. This, I just love it. It's just the simplicity, that thin little twig that the subject is standing on, and then those piercing eyes. It's the only color really is those yellow feet and those eyes. So it's so soft, it's so understated, but so strong. Well done. It is a beautiful image. I love it.
Anne Borman, 5-star, Miniature Rose, Gold Award.
Nice one, then. Love the color in this rose, and by adding the drops, natural, unnatural, I think it just enhances the image in total. Again, with a very black background, it makes the rose stand out. But I think it could possibly just lift the colors a little bit in there. So exposure-wise, I think maybe just play around with it. See if you can lift the shadows and get more detail in the petal in the bottom, because it actually competes indirectly with the rest of the flower, which is well lit, well exposed, and you have this very sort of dark bottom and all that. My suggestion is just play around there with the exposure bit, and you can actually bring out more impact in this image.
Next category is photojournalism. 5-star. To be the best, you must ride the best. Silver.
I love the action in this. Obviously, some sort of radio. So somebody's been traveling, which is fantastic. The background adds value, because in PJ, it's great to place it, must tell a story. And yeah, you've got the spectators obviously just loving what's happening. So well done. Regrettably, the front legs of the beast has been cut off. So the crop is not a good crop, particularly at 5-star. We expect you to try and either get it in your image or make sure that it's in your crop. And then regrettably, the ox, I think it's an ox or a bull, the bull's head is in shadow. But that you can resolve in Lightroom. You can use your radial filter, or use your radial filter on the head there and lighten it a bit so that it's not quite so dark, so that it stands out. I know that your attention, you want the attention on the rider. I do understand that, but it's a little bit disconcerting, this darkness in the bottom left-hand corner. It's sort of like the eye keeps on going there. You don't want that. So lighten that and it'll be super.
Next category is portrait. Tim Gould, Master Bronze, Celtic Warrior, Gold Award.
Oh, nice one, Tim. Love the feel in this. I love the mood and all that. And I think in this case, makeup like you've applied or been applied to the model actually just adds to the overall story. And the title also just helps the judges get a better feel for what you're trying to portray. So background is nice and clear, nothing to compete, and then just these piercing eyes, and with the dark surrounds on the cheeks and all that, just holds one's attention all the way. Beautifully presented, brother.
Sue Gould, 5-star, Latch, Gold Award.
Yes, I really, I love this image because, first of all, when you've got arms and hands, and it's not easy, but this has been well handled. You've got no cropping of fingers and all that sort of thing. I really enjoy the bare shoulder. It's actually not competing with the model's face because it's not lifted, it's not the wrong angle, it's a beautiful, relaxed shoulder. And then, of course, I love the lighting. I love the lighting coming from the one side, but you haven't got the right-hand side so dark that you can't see the eye. So the exposure on this image is really, really, really good. Just look a little bit carefully on the nose and on the forehead. There's marks there. I'm not sure why they're there, if it was in post-processing. It's so easy. Just use your healing brush on the nose and on the forehead and just clear those marks a little bit to give that skin the same texture that you've got in the rest. Because you've got this lovely texture and then you've got these funny marks here and on the forehead. So just clear that, and this is a definite salon acceptance.
And Borman, 5-star, just a pigeon, gold award.
Well, it's all about the presentation, and this portrait is really well handled. Beautiful colors on the dove, the pigeon, and I have a striking red circle in the eye that holds one's attention. Exposure is great, and I would just urge you to be a little bit careful. I think I'll pick up some banding in the green foreground, and maybe that's got something to do with the processing. But as Kathy suggested earlier on, that is something that you can also can control and just pull back on. But well presented on the bird and the exposure and the focus. It's key.
5-star, Berenice, silver.
Yes, this is the portrait with the difference. I had to look at it a while and just get the mood. And I love the mood. There's like a melancholy feel to this. And I think it's the green. I think it's the green dress. And then you've got the green foliage around the head and the green background. Because my first thought, oh, why is she looking down? I want to see her eyes. But I think it was done purposefully for the mood, to give her a feeling of shyness, of withdrawing for some other reason. I just wish that the author had just got a little bit lower, because there's almost this feeling of photographing from above, and it's almost distorted the image because it's made her head a little bit big for the rest of her body. So just crouch down a little bit, and this could be really, really super. I assume you've got a lot more. So let's hope with one or two of them you've got a little bit lower, and let's see what those look like. I look forward to seeing them.
Next category is scapes. 1-star, the Kelders, silver.
Yeah. So, sorry. Oh. All right. Right time of the morning or in the day, beautiful soft lighting on the rocks and all that, and your horizon nice and straight, and on the third. So that composition that ticks all the boxes. I would suggest that you maybe try just at the rocks, in the center lot and above the leading in the rock there, that you actually maybe try and bring in a little bit more light in that. If you look at the light that you managed to achieve on the rocks in the foreground, if you can apply, if you did just lighten that a bit with a brush, then do the same on the rocks in the center there, and then that could make it a little bit stronger. But you have beautiful color in the foreground, and then you have this very dark, almost intruding rock or ledge in the front of you. So if you could maybe put a little bit of effort in that and just lighten that up a bit, with a brush, then you could possibly, and I think you would enhance the image. But leading, you have a nice leading. It's particularly, I would prefer to see maybe a bit more the orange sky in the background, that your eyes lead out there right now. You have that line, and you go to the lighter side on your right-hand side, but then you come back again. So I think play around with that ledge in the front and you might enhance the image.
Ian Taylor, Master Bronze, 20 minutes to sunrise, Gold Award.
I love this image. It's really beautiful. I love the colors, the softness, although it's pinch off. What is really, really nice, it's not too busy. You've got this beautiful leading from the right-hand corner, then towards the rocks and then that leads you to that sky. Now, under normal circumstances, you'd want more cloud or more, but it's just because the foreground is so simplistic, it's great with the sky like that. You've got a good balance there. This is a really nice image. I would enter this in the salon, Ian.
Joan Darcy, 3-star, Moyo in the Morning, Gold Award.
Oh, nice one, Joan. Again, in this case, I like the aspect ratio that you used here, this almost pano scheme. And by doing that, you actually give us a nice idea of what the rest of the bay in Durban looks like. And then having those ships and the lights of the ships in the background just adds a little bit more interest in it, and it's not intrusive in the overall feel of the image. So focus on the pier. That's well handled. Slow enough shutter speed to just give you that smooth sort of milky water line. Well done. I like it.
Van Berens, Master Bronze, Tree Stump on Beach, Gold Award.
I love this image. Once again, we were talking about the simplistic, it's not overdone. Fawn spotted this, but what is so wonderful is the light that we've got on this stump. Because sometimes it can just be a brown blob. You've got to be so careful. And yet we have the color on this, it just holds the eye all the time. If you allow your eye to wander, then you've got that beautiful color from the sky and along the reflections in the water with the lead in going towards the sun. So it's a really nice image. You've got a beautiful Z shape as the eye goes. So compositionally, this is also very, very well done. Lovely, Fawn, lovely.
Karine Berens, 5-star, Reflection, Gold Award.
Oh, nice one, Karine. This is what somebody would refer to as a chocolate box cover. That's how nice it is. So the reflection of the mountains in the background and this absolutely still water in the foreground. And what makes it even more interesting that you can actually, at the bottom, when you lead in from the bottom in the water, you can actually see detail on the floor, on the ground, below the water line. Very well handled. Nice aspect ratio. The format in which you present it is nice. You don't have a wide border that competes with the image. Lovely winter colors, well presented.
5-star, Sunrise, Pumula Beach, Silver.
Yes, now this is such a pity because I love the fact that this is a very slow shutter speed, and you've softened and flattened the water so nicely, and you've got this great sky behind as well. So there's so much going for this image, a lovely leading line, but it's really just a slight bit dark. You can really lighten this up so easily. You can levels, or you can up your shadows and pull back a little bit on your highlights, or you can use some clarity here, or even texture, but careful with the texture. You've got enough texture in the rocks. You actually just want to lighten them a bit. I would play around with this image. If you like, when we do, we're going to be doing shortly on correcting images. If you want to, you can send this one in and we'll use it as an example in Lightroom and just show you how to turn this into a superb image.
Shark Tail Shop, Master Silver, Low Tide at Dawn, Gold Award.
Well, this is why people run to the coast, is to experience this type of sunrise in the morning. People fishing, and it's just this beautiful, beautiful soft lighting early morning. The movement or the shininess in the foreground with the tide receding and the reflection of the sun, that just holds this image and just adds that much value to it. The rocks on the left-hand side lead you to the sun, and that's really what you want to see in a landscape like this. Well presented, Jacques. Well done.
Sean Fenter, Master Bronze, Durban Sunrise, Gold Award.
Oh, wow. This is just so lovely. I mean, super. You have found the right position to photograph. I mean, it's just, I mean, there's so many times you look at this, but you're just not in the right spot or there's something in the way. So you've chosen your position so well. You've got these buildings so nicely on the third, and then you've got this flat water with this beautiful sky in the background, with the buildings still lit up. You've got light on the boats. It really is such a peaceful, tranquil, lovely start of the day type of image, because we all know that it's not going to be long and that city is going to be bustling. But you've caught that moment before it wakes up. And I love that emotion that you've caught here. Well done.
1 star, Seascape, Silver.
As far as the exposure is concerned and being able to capture movement in the water, I think the author has managed that with a slow enough shutter speed. Couple of things that I think you should consider when you present landscapes. One, a square crop hardly ever complements an image like this. And I think there possibly could have been more on either side of this ledge that would have allowed you to use a landscape format. Then when you do scapes like this, always have a look at the horizon line. And if you use Lightroom, it's very easy to correct a tilting line by just dragging the level across, and it would automatically level out. And straight away, it sort of averts conflict for the viewer, because you're looking and say, well, it's like the tide's running out on the Durban side, like the Indians would say. So I think if you work on those type of things and all that, then you would actually start presenting a better image, because that's what you see when you're out there. But I think in particular, maybe just have a look at the focus. The foreground does seem a bit soft on the rocks and all that, and you'd expect that to be sharp because that's fixed. There's no movement in that. So if you get anything sharp, it has to be the rocks or the ledge in front of you. And just work on that, and I think you're going to get it.
Ian Taylor, Master Bronze, Kissed by the Sun, Gold Award.
Yes, you've captured the softness yet again, the simplicity. I love this curve of the rocks. It's going in this lovely circle and going towards the sun. So super. So why not a high mark? Because you've got your exposure perfect. And I think the only thing that has happened here is that you've got it's a little bit off balance. You've got on the left-hand side, you've got everything. You've got the rocks, you've got the sun, you've got the light. And on the right-hand side, it's quite dull and there's missing something. So perhaps you could have changed your position slightly, just gone to the left and not quite such a wide angle one, popped off some from the right, which doesn't have enough color and stuff like that. Maybe add a little bit more on the left. I'm sure you've got quite a few of these, so play around. you've got something here that's really wonderful. I think it's just your positioning.
Korean Barrens, 5-star. Afternoon sun in the mountains, Gold Award.
Yep, I'm a sucker for this type of landscape. I like the starkness of it. I like the contrasting colors. So you have a very dead foreground where everything's died because of the frost and all that, and then you have this white in the mountains with the snow, and then the contrasting the blue and all that. So to me, what holds this image and makes it that much stronger is you've got this lonely little tree in the bottom fifth intersection there that sort of anchors it, and then your eye from there goes and enjoys the rest of the image. Possibly play a little bit with your highlights. If you look at the snow caps, a little bit bright, and I think maybe you can tone that down a little bit. And if you do that, you could possibly bring out a little bit more detail, but get away from it almost blown out. Not completely blown out, but it is very bright.
Next category is sport. 5-star, Epic Rider, silver.
Yes, it's nice to see somebody's getting out there and getting some of these sports photographs, so well done. It's not easy to get out, and there's not too many sporting events at the moment, so that in itself was fun. I think it's so difficult to photograph when you've got this type of dappled light. You've got the dark shadows, you've got the light behind. So it really is difficult because what has happened here is you've got your rider actually in the shade. His face and everything is in the shade. And you've got your background with the trees and that. That's the bright part. And that's so, as a sports image, what you always got to look at, you've got to imagine it's in the newspaper or the magazine, will it make the viewer stop and look again? And unfortunately, because the rider is so dark, is darker than the background, they would possibly move on to the next image. So there are ways you can enhance it. You could possibly try to capture him as he came down the mountain before he turned, because then he would have been in the light. Or you can use a radial filter and try and lighten him up a bit. And you can do that. You're not taking anything out, putting anything in, because as you saw him, he wouldn't have been as dark as this. It's just your sensor has darkened him so much because the background being so light has made the rider dark. So you can lighten him. It's quite acceptable as long as you obviously don't overdo it. So try and play around a bit with this image because there's possibilities here.
Next category is the set subject. Tim Gould, Master Bronze, Mongoose, Gold Award.
Well, first of all, Tim, well done on the award, and well deserved, I think. These animals are so skittish and very seldom that you actually get them standing still. Normally you see the rear end of them disappearing somewhere. So the fact that you managed to capture this in this beautiful log or stump and all that, just as an added bonus on there. Nice and sharp around the head, and that's what holds one's eye. And then as far as the brief is concerned, with the natural framing, you've achieved this beautifully. Well done.
Sandy Reinders, 1-star, A Soulmate, Gold Award.
Yes, I love this because you really hit the brief. What a beautiful frame this is, and a modernized frame. You often have your subject peeping out the side of the frame in a lot of the modern images. So super lovely, and your exposure is spot on. You've got a catchlight in the eye. You've got a light on his eye. It's a really lovely image. Well done.
Yes.
Sorry, Henry?
No, beautiful image. I just whenever I see a very wide border like this, then I would make a note to advise the author that please bring it down. Use a 1 millimeter,
Pixel.
Yeah, it competes with the image totally, and in a way it tracks.
Ian Taylor, Master Bronze, The Bully, Gold Award.
Well, action, beautiful exposure on the birds, and it has a natural framing. And so you meet the brief 100% here. I don't know what else you could have done here, because lighting-wise is very difficult. This is normally would be in shadow, or you have lots of shadows around. And the fact that you managed to get this with this light just on the subject and its victim there, if you want to call it that, is well thought out and well executed.
Joan Darcy, 3-star, Frame Snowy Rhino Peak, Gold Award.
Yes, well, as you were saying earlier, one of the most beautiful parts of South Africa, and cleverly captured. I'm quite sure you went closer and moved beyond the trees, and then you probably focused on the boat and got the mountains in the background. But it's really a nice idea, and that's one of the reasons why we have this set subject, because so often you can use your surrounding area as a frame. So this adds such value to this image, because it's made this wonderful natural frame, and it's actually now draws the eye straight to those snowy peaks in the background, and keeps the eye there. It stops the eye from darting out of the image. So nice one, Joan.
Henry Oppel, Master Silver, Love is in the Air, Merit Award.
Yes, and this is such a well-deserved merit, because as you can see, what a beautiful frame we have produced for these battaliers. It acts as a lead-in, and then it forms a curve, the same curve as what you've got in the left-hand battalier, the back, and then the bottom where they are standing on part of the frame actually anchors your image. And then the battalier on the right-hand side almost acts as a frame as well to encapsulate the two subjects. So compositionally, this is a phenomenal image. It's really lovely. Well done. You could enter this in the salon, Henry.
Michelle Pearson, 5-star, My Spot, Merit Award.
Wow. Yeah. So again, just like the previous image, I think Michelle copied me by using it. So I'm pleased I got mine in first. Yeah, Michelle, great idea, and that's what I would call a natural framing and all that. So it just holds your attention to the actual subject, and that's the important part. Not so much the frame; it's what the effect of the frame is on the subject, and this is what you managed to capture so beautifully. And the exposure on this black and on the crake with this yellow bill and all that is absolutely beautiful. And then, of course, the movement with the one leg up in the air. It's just a stunning image. Well done.
Kathy K, Master Gold, A Sense of Scale, Merit Award.
Yeah, beautifully presented, Kathy. So to have this little Illy framed by the adult mom is beautiful, and the separation. That's what so often you get these little fellas, and all you see behind them is just legs and trunks and tusks and all that. And very seldom you get them isolated like this. And in this case, you've managed to achieve that. Exposure, and if I look at it, maybe not ideal lighting conditions, but well handled, whatever it was. It's soft, and I don't think there's much more I would do, certainly producing or presenting this image. Lovely.
Master Bronze, I Am Here, Silver.
Well, this is the cute factor. It's just something that we all wish that we could see and experience, because that is so beautiful. The little baby peeping out from probably its mom's legs, hiding away, and it is beautiful. And they form this incredible frame so that the eye just goes straight to this beautiful little subject. The only thing that lets us down is I think it was a huge crop, because it's sort of almost starting to separate, and it doesn't quite have the sharpness that one would require on the eyes and the face itself. You've got good sharpness surrounding it in your frame side, but you need, there's just a little bit too much where it's starting to almost like pixelate. So that was the only thing that stopped this from being a merit. But I don't know, maybe you can save it. Maybe you should just try and process it again, because the story is amazing.
Van Berens, Master Bronze, framed, Gold Award.
Yeah. So, Fana, I must really compliment you on the exposure that you've got on this luri. It's very seldom that you actually see them sit still long enough for you to get an image, and you manage to get that. And then the fact that it's framed with the twigs around it, but nothing really interferes with the actual bird growing out of its bum or its neck or its head. So the separation between the subject and the background is well handled. Crop, a little bit awkward, but I think you did that to achieve and meet the brief, and that you've handled well.
Rona Salshop, Master Bronze, Social Distancing, Gold Award.
Well, Rani, you definitely met the brief, because you framed it magnificently. And what I like about the framing is the frame is dark, and it actually holds your subjects together. It doesn't compete with them, and your exposure on your subjects is very good. The only reason why this image was marked down is because it's really, really tight on the top. If you'd given a little bit more space above and to the right-hand side of the image, because it almost feels as if it's coming down on the head. So just give it a bit more space and it'll be a superb image.
Sorry, what birds are these?
It's a heron, not a greenback. Consider that.
Definitely not the greenback.
No, but it's like that size bird. Yeah, one of the herons. Yeah.
Okay. 2-star, Sunset, Silver.
Well, the author spotted a beautiful sunset here, because the colors and the light, unfortunately, well, let me rephrase it. So what the camera would have done is it would have exposed for the bright side, and that's why everything else is dark. So being an open category, I would have liked to see if you could maybe bring out a little bit of detail, not much. I don't want it to be a very bright log or tree trunk or anything like it, but just bring out a little bit of detail and all that, so you actually have a sense of the frame. But the exposure on the sky is spot on, but the very, very bright sun is going to be a problem. Nice sort of composition. It's just that I urge you to try and see if you can actually lighten the foreground and the side, just on the branches. Just bring out a wee bit of detail, and it will make a very strong image.
Tony K, 4-star, Leopard in the Grass, Gold Award.
Yeah, Tony. Leopards in the grass. That's where you don't see them very often, even though they're there. They see you long before you see them. So you've managed to separate this from the background. I just like the attitude that this cat's producing, staring at you. So not an inch closer, and hide that nick on the way. No, I'm just kidding. If anything, I think it may be the crop in the foreground and the paws, that area is a little bit tight, but it's still a very pleasing portrait. Well done.
5-star, steam, silver.
Yes, I like the fact that the steam train has been framed beautifully by the tunnel. As you can see, it's on the side and on the top, and you've got this lovely leading line with the railway line going towards the train. But once again, it appears that this is also a very big crop, because it's also starting to separate slightly. Either that, or it was a bad time of the day and the train was a bit dark and you tried to possibly lighten it too much and that flattened it out a bit. I'm not sure, but I love the idea and I love the composition. So I think it's just the post-processing which has let this image down.
Malcolm Sutton, 5-star, blue wax bill, gold award.
Oh, beautiful. Just look at the focus in this wax bill. I mean, it's absolutely stunning. You know, they're so small and so quick to flit away and all that. Often you don't sit and actually enjoy the detail and the colors in these small birds. So as far as the brief is concerned, I think the natural framing is spot on and it just draws one's eye back to the bird. Very well handled.
Jacques Selshop, Master Silver, naturally framed, gold award.
Jacques, what I really love about this is that you actually caught the sun on his head as he obviously turned or moved or something. And wow, that is so spot on. And I mean, the eye just stays there. And you've got really, really lovely framing of the branches. I just feel possibly maybe a little bit too much of the branches. If you just try and crop a little bit out so that you've got your subject a little bit more dominant, and you could earn a much higher mark. Or score, sorry, a much higher score.
Charmaine Fenter, 5-star, Eyes See You, gold award.
Well done, Charmaine. I just love this image because that's its natural area where it lives during the day. And when you see them like it, but often they are so well camouflaged that it's very difficult to actually get a clear image of them. So the fact that you almost manage to get like a line from its back against the log and all that, it's clear. So it's separation, and that's what makes it so strong. Natural framing at its best. If anything, maybe I would try and tone down the background a little bit, a couple of bright spots. And in this category, most certainly you could have done something because it's an open category. In nature, you'll be allowed to just drop the exposure on it rather than manipulating it excessively. And I think that could actually do well because this is where the bird lives and where it lives and hunts and all. Well done.
John Fenter, Master Bronze, Cheetah Cub, gold award.
Well, I just loved this image. I found this one of the images of the evening. And I'll tell you why, because what I loved about this framing is it's grass. I mean, it's just little bits of grass framing this tiny cheetah cub. And it's just so symbolical, this delicate grass framing this beautiful little face with the eyes pin sharp. I mean, they hide. When they're this age, they're hidden in the bush and everything else. So that was probably his only chance of a photograph was in the grass. his timing is absolutely perfect. The way he just waited until, or shifted his position or whatever he did to make sure that the grass didn't cross the eye or whatever it is. This is a really lovely image, John.
Marissa Enslin, 5-star. Slack, Gold Award. Or Slack.
Slack.
Nice one, Marissa. I love the colours in this. The lighting on this, on the dandelion, and having the snail in these just brought out lots of detail that one wouldn't normally see. So compliments on the way you lit this up. Compositionally, I like it, although the snail is almost dead center. The fact that it actually heads out and it leads out of the center just adds value as far as I'm concerned. Great lighting, well presented, and very natural framing.
2-star, the Yuan, silver.
Oh, well captured. It's just so lovely that you were ready and waiting when it came this lovely yawn. And yes, it's beautifully framed. Framed, you've got the Y of the branch and then the branch at the back. The only reason why this didn't get a high mark is that you've got just too much on the right-hand side that doesn't add value to your image. You could have cropped all of that off, done it in a portrait format. You still have had your subject framed. You would have cropped out all those very bright whites and the outer focus branch on the right-hand side, which is just not necessary. Then the attention would just have remained on your subject, making it a very strong image.
Kathy K, Master Gold, framed in an arc, Merit Award.
Yeah, natural frame in the water, surfer doing what they do best, getting Geordie performing there. And then what adds to this image is the red vest. That's why I always encourage people that do photography of the surface, always go for the colorful vest because it just adds so much contrast and impact to the image. But the cutback, as the maneuver is called, just gives you this beautiful spray and it frames the surfer perfectly. Well done.
Thank you.
Master Bronze, framed, silver.
I absolutely just love this idea of this. I think it's in Yana, and they're lost in this beautiful, soft green grass. They're still in the most beautiful story. This is new life. It's after the rain, it's growth, it's everything else, and then very cleverly framed. I think, regrettably, that the frame itself is so huge, but it's so out of focus that it's actually drawing attention away from your subject. So either a tighter pot with less of the frame, so you just put the frame on the edges of your image, but try to eliminate so much of the outer focus, and it'll be a lovely image.
5-star, Peekaboo, silver.
Yeah, I think just the fact that you managed to see this, because they're so quick and so small, and they run and hide as soon as they sense anybody or anything near them. Exposure on the scene is nice. It's nice and soft. It's not very bright. Unfortunately, what lets it down is the focus on the little mouse. I think if you could get that sharp and all that, this would be a stunning image. Even though it's a little bit center, I would maybe just crop either the left or the right, just bring the subject onto a third, and it could be a very, very strong image. But the main problem here is that the mouse is a bit soft.
Okay, we're done with the images. I've got the star winners.
Oh, that's nice. I'm glad you could do it tonight. Well done, Akash.
Okay. 1 star, Sandy Reinders, A Soulmate, best 1 star.
Well done, Sandy.
Yep.
And a worthy winner.
There were no 2-star Gold or Merit awards. In the 3-star, Joan Darcy, Moyo in the Morning, best 3-star image.
Well done.
4-star, Tony K, Having a Drink, best 4-star image.
Hey.
5-star, Michelle Pearson, Furious, best 5-star image.
Well done, Michelle.
Master Bronze, Ian Taylor, 20 Minutes to Sunrise, best Master Bronze image. The 1 to 5-star was the averages of the 3 judges. The Master Bronze was picked by Tom Prince. And then in the combined Master Silver and Master Gold, Henry Oppel, Peace Offering, best Master Silver.
Well done,
this is-
Henry.
Thank you.
And this one was picked by Evelyn Gibson.
Oh, one of the top judges in the country. Well done, Henry.
Oh, thank you.
And that's the end.